Good day and welcome to Interface. I'm your host, Kimberly Broderick. Our guest for today's program is the Executive Director at E4Life, Joy Crawford, who will be talking with us about teenage pregnancy, domestic violence, and child abuse. Welcome, Mrs. Crawford. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, let's get straight into it. On the issue of teenage pregnancy, what's the common age affected by teenage pregnancy?
All right, okay, so there are a number of sources that talk about what's happening in Jamaica teenage pregnancy. But I would want to think that everybody would be agreeing that we're somewhere between 14 to 17, thereabouts. I mean, you'd have some younger and, of course, some older. But if you think about the fact that we are seeing HIV, for example, in young girls, we're looking at between 15 and 25. It says that's where we find the highest prevalence amongst girls. If you look at what we're talking about, the teen clinics in Jamaica, where we actually have clinics just for young girls who get pregnant. The Women's Center of Jamaica, for example, have a number of girls who are all under 16.
Yes.
So if you look at all of those, we could agree that you're looking at between, say, 14 to 16, 17.
Wow. What's the youngest you've ever encountered?
For us as an organization, our youngest teen mother was about 13, 12 going on to 13.
Wow. All right. What are some of the factors that contribute to teen pregnancy?
Wow. There are a number of things. I think the first one, though, and this is coming from what the girls would say, is a lack of information. A lot of the young women say, if we had known, if someone had said this to us. I think we've taken a lot for granted that our girls and our boys know how to protect themselves, how to navigate sexual feelings and sexual desires that will kick in. So the whole issue of we're not having a conversation around sexuality with our children. We're not talking about what are the triggers. So for example, let's talk about puberty. Puberty is a real thing. But we've reduced puberty to having a period or a menstruation.
Yes.
And or for the boys, we'll talk about wet dreams. However, we haven't broken it down to the stimulations that happen. We haven't said to our girls, for example, that, your breasts may get tender, your nipples may get, engorged, your body may feel aroused. These are a natural part of what happens when you are having a menstrual cycle. So if all we talk about is the outcome of the period, then they're totally unprepared. The moodiness, the desire for affection, all that kind of thing is a part of growth of the We haven't had those conversations. So that is one part of it for me, the whole issue that a lot of our girls say to us, they did not know. They did not know that there are certain triggers in their life that could put them at risk. I think the other piece of it, though, is the part that we don't talk about a lot, which is the abuse, which is the incest and the rape and the violation that goes on with our girls. The culture, once the girl gets to puberty, she a bud. She needs to be plucked.
She's ripe.
She's ripe for the picking. And for some reason, there's this almost unwritten code in our society that once a girl starts to come into womanhood, it's a man's right, it's a boy's right to pursue her. But the main purpose of pursuing her is to engage in sex, whether it's going to be coercion, whether it's going to be force. So I do think that those things contribute heavily to the pregnancy outcome. We don't have, our kids don't access condoms. They don't access family planning without parental consent in our country.
Yes.
So here's it, if you even have two youngsters who have a crush on a match and decide to engage in sex, how do they access and protect themselves from pregnancy? So we do have a lot of things that we need to look at, how we make our policies, our social opportunities, or education for young girls once they get into the stage, and how do we prepare them. So I think that those are some of the issues, along with the other social issues, the poverty, the cultural interface where you may have several boyfriends coming through the house, all those kind of things. The mothers are out working, the girls are left alone.
Yeah.
There are so many social protection things. So I think it's a whole package as to what makes her vulnerable. But I think for me, the biggest one I've heard is that our girls need a lot more information. They need a lot more nurturing. They need the adult women to stand with them, to show them the ropes, how to navigate. And of course, we need the laws to protect them when their spaces are crossed.
Because, you know, culturally, persons may say we're not telling our kids about sex until they reach 18, or you don't need to know about sex, or you're not supposed to be having sex until marriage. The reality is sometimes that there are persons out there doing it. There are persons who believe that as well. So the lack of information would be, and some persons are even afraid to ask.
Yes, and you know, the truth is, Kimberly, I don't have the figures, but the data, if you Google anywhere, they'll tell you a lot of the countries and the spaces, including our own homes, where the children get the information early, they delay more because the curiosity is gone. They have the facts. They know the pros and cons. I remember when we had a video on sexually transmitted infections. It was done by some young people in our organization. And I remember taking it home and showing it to my daughter. And after she watched it, she said to me, "Mom, and my friends wonder why I don't want to have sex." You know, because it is there, the information. So there's nothing that suggests that once you have early exposure to information and to life skills, it will cause pregnancy or pregnancy. It's actually the other way.
Yeah.
So it's really not, it's a myth.
All right. How many would you say of these teenage pregnancies are caused by rape?
Wow. That's very easy to answer. We're in a country where we have our laws that say that we offer girls under 16 protection so that they cannot consent. So as far as I'm concerned, every girl who is pregnant, wherever she shows up, whether she's at the church, she's at Women's Center, she's at E for Life, she's at Jubilee, wherever she is, has been raped because she can't consent. So I'm not really into much debate about, you know, did she want it, did she not want it, you know, was it her, you know.
Yes.
That's what the law says. And then, of course, once it's 16 and over, then you look at the issue around having sex with a girl under 18 who doesn't have the capacity, who have been coerced and groomed and forced into sex. So I just think the numbers are alarming. And if you put it that way, then we're really doing nothing in the conversation. If you're under 16, it's rape.
Consensual or not. And you raised a very good point.
But the point is that you can't consent. So even though we will say, oh, she had a crush, we as a society and law gave her protection under law. But you're correct. But we take it back when it happens.
Yes.
We take it back and say, oh, well, she was seeing him. Oh, well, you know, it's not really, he never forced her. Oh, and we have all of these other arguments that are put in. Exactly. But let us just keep it simple. I mean, I see it in the media all the time. 14-year-old girl killed by intimate partner. How old is the man? 40. Hello, it's not a relationship. You know,
ongoing abuse.
Exactly. So if we don't change the narrative, we're not really going to solve the problem, including in the mind of the girls, because the girls themselves need to know. So we have had conversations, for example, when we say to the girls, the young girls, they say, listen to me, if you're involved with an older man and you're not willing to talk about it, you're not willing to report it, then you're also aiding and abetting in a crime. Because in Jamaica, we still have it as a crime. But we have to have that kind of language. We can't glamorize it anymore.
What are, just ahead of the break, quickly, what are some of the struggles that these teenage girls face?
Wow. Drop out of school, interrupted education, stigma and discrimination, which society is very harsh. We judge them without knowing a story. The first thing, once you see a girl who is pregnant, everybody thinks they know the reason why. And most time it's because the girl wanted it. And so that level of stigma that they face, you're too young, you shouldn't breed. And of course the family rejection, the upheaval in the family. Sometimes families get divided over it. A lot of times the mothers are blamed because the mothers are the ones who should have taught her not to get pregnant. And it's just a real mess. It's just a real mess. Becoming a mother before you can even take care of yourself. They don't have parenting skills. You know, I remember one girl said she got upset every time she was to take the baby to the doctor. Just to leave and to go to bus stop with the child when it's sick. It's a bit distracted for her because guess what? That's not what she wanted. She didn't sign up for that. It was a part of it, eh?
Mm. All right, we now take a break. We'll be right back. We're talking about teenage pregnancy. Stay tuned. The Interface will be right back. Welcome back to Interface for those of you just joining in. I'm Kimberly Broderick, and we're here with Joy Crawford, the Executive Director at E for Life. Earlier before the break, we spoke about the issue of teenage pregnancy and some of the struggles that the teen mothers face. You mentioned a few. How does E for Life deal with teenage pregnancy?
Okay, all right. So we've been around for 11 years in Jamaica, and when we started doing our work, we were looking at primarily how HIV interfaces in the life of the young teenage mother. So if you understand that we have a number of girls who are pregnant in our country, and because we have a policy to prevent mother-to-child transmission, then routinely they are tested. And so if you consider the fact that as a young woman you go to the health center because you're pregnant, you may be happy about the pregnancy, you may not be. But then you are now given a diagnosis that you're HIV positive.
Wow.
That throws a spoke in the wheel, eh? So one of the programs that we have is called the I Am Alive Club. And that is designed to provide psychosocial support for teenage mothers who are living with HIV. We are in Kingston, we are in St. Anne, we are in Montego Bay, and we are in Westmoreland. Okay. So on a monthly basis, we have support group meetings where they come together, and we share information about different life skills, has to do with teenage pregnancy. There are parenting issues that we look at, and they also have information, of course, about living with HIV, how to live well, how to make sure that you are during a pregnancy taking your medication, because you can get your medication so the child is born HIV free. What should you do afterwards? We look at how we support them after the pregnancy. What kind of referrals are needed? Does she want to go back to school? Can she afford to go back to school? And when I say affording, it's not just about money. One of the things that we have seen is the girl has the baby and have a desire to go back to school, but she has nobody to look after the baby. There's no babysitter. And if the family is already engaged in their regular life, they're not necessarily always going to be stopping to keep baby for you to go to school. So if that child does not have a support system where daycare can be paid for, they don't make it back in school. And so these are some things that we have learned along the way, because it seems an easy thing. Oh yeah, man, you must go back to school. But what does that mean? When the child goes back to school, how does the baby get supported? So we look at stuff like that. We look at, is it that she needs to go learn a skill? Is it that we need to set up some kind of income generating activity for her? Because unless she herself can become financially viable, if that's the word to use, she remain vulnerable, eh?
Yes.
As a teenage mother, she also will be exposed to counseling, one-on-one counseling with a counseling psychologist, because again, it comes with a number of issues. We do family interventions. We try to meet with families and with the mothers and the fathers to see how can we bridge the gap, that brokenness that has taken place in the family.
Yes.
And then by extension, you have to look at now, who are the men who are involved in the life of this child? Are we reporting someone? What needs to happen? Is there somewhere that we need to help her to get justice if that's the case that is required? How does she get protection if that's the case that's required? So, we do all of this, and we work closely with our partners in the child protection sector, with the police, with the Women's Center of Jamaica, with the hospitals that we're in. So that's what we do as far as teenage pregnancy is concerned.
And I believe you mentioned it a bit earlier, apart from providing the necessary information, what else can the government do?
Wow. We need many more women's centers, for example, to look at the academic piece of it, because they can take so many girls and no more. We need to have a lot more community-based interventions that are within the communities themselves where the young women live.
Yes.
It's challenging sometimes for them to leave one space to the next to access services. So we need to look at how we do that. We need to strengthen NGOs like E4Life who are directly involved with young mothers. How do we build the capacity? We have in our organization what we call our mentor moms.
Yes.
Now, the mentor mom herself would have been a young girl who was a teen mother, would have been trained in a number of disciplines, in how to do peer education, how to do mentorship, how to do advocacy, how to do parenting talks, that kind of stuff. We need to have a lot more mentor moms on the ground because, you know, young people listen to young people.
Yes.
But it has to be empowered young people. So I do think that there can be a more comprehensive roadmap as to how we address the issue of teen motherhood. But more than anything, we need to have a prevention program, a strong prevention program, because we don't want girls getting pregnant, you know, because dealing with the pregnancies after the fact. So for us, I'd want to see a strong campaign around how we respond to this issue of girls' vulnerability to pregnancy.
All right, now on to domestic violence. Mrs. Crawford, describe domestic violence in your own words.
Okay, so domestic violence is what happens within what we would call a domestic space. The home, most times, is where we look when we talk about domestic violence. And within communities, it's the violence that happens between people, male, female, females, females, whatever it is, around issues that are domesticated. You know, we have disputes and how we interface and how we relate with each other. But within that space of domestic violence, we have what we call intimate partner violence. So the intimate partner violence now occurs between people who are involved in some kind of agreed relationship. And then you have the other piece, which is gender-based violence. Gender-based violence now is, again, another extension. And the gender-based violence now occurs simply because you have unequal power between maleness and femaleness. So one example I always say about the difference between, and it's important that we know it so we can record it properly. Let us say I'm in a relationship and my partner comes in, my husband, and box me. I'm a box back. That is intimate partner violence because we have power. You box me, me can box you back. We're equal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The gender-based violence now is a difference. There's a power struggle. I am above you. So most times it happens with men versus women and men and girls. Simply because I'm a maleness and man run things and man a king and woman submissive. And so I do it because in my mind I am supposed to and I can. And then the woman takes it because in her mind I am supposed to get it. Him lick me, but really and truly me never cook the food good. So I deserve it. So the big umbrella is violence against women, under which all of these guys fall. So when it comes to the girl, you're looking at gender-based violence, unequal power. There's no way that a young girl can have power in a relationship with an older person. And therefore, she's always going to become the loser. That is why when it comes to the issue of sexual violence and issue of rape, it's power. It's all about power. And we have a culture that has given adult men this sense of feeling that it's okay. It's interesting, I remember when I went to college, one man said to me that it was his God-given duty to pursue and my responsibility to retreat.
Oh?
And I've never heard it put differently, and this was way back in the 80s, and I've never forgotten it. Therefore, his overtures and his command and his constant nagging, he said it was his duty.
Wow.
And there are some men who really believe that.
And live by it.
And live by it. And so, it's nothing to them to force a girl to have sex. Him just be a man. Then, of course, we respond to this violence now only when it's death. Can we sit around us all a while, you know? Let's go back to the pregnancy thing. When the girls at Women's Center, you know, they see them walking on the road in the evenings. And when those girls tell me stories of what the men say to them between the center and half a tree, you'd be ashamed to know that men in Jamaica would say things like that.
The catcalling.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so here's what some of the men will say. The girl pregnant already, she can't get pregnant again.
Again, this is the misinformed.
Yes, and how we justify the violence that we do. So the violence can be physical, there's emotional violence there, there's financial violence. We don't talk a lot about that one. Again, it's about power. Where I withhold my money from you or my goods, even though we have an agreement, simply because I know it will hurt you. And remember, the issue around gender violence is not just men and women, even though it is the majority.
Yes.
There are some women who have as well. Women have power.
Yeah.
Simply because I can, eh? So the financial violence is there. And so all of these come under violence. Sometimes we don't see it until the physical part takes place. But the putting down, the shaming, the withholding, love and affection,
Yeah.
all of that is violence. So we have to break it down to all of that. It's not just when the black eyes show up.
It's all kinds.
It's all
the
kinds
same
of
for
violence.
abuse.
Yes.
All right, we're up to another break. Stay tuned. Interface will be right back. Welcome back to Interface. We're here with Executive Director at E4Life, Joy Crawford, talking about the issue of domestic violence. This is the question that everybody always asks, Mrs. Crawford. Why do the victims stay? Why do they not run? Why do they stay with their abusers?
All right, great. It's an excellent question. It's something that I grapple with all the time. But the first thing I want to talk about, and this should be information for our audience, is a thing called the Stockholm Syndrome, which some of us know. And what this is where the victim in a situation become endeared to the person who is hurting them. So it's a cycle, violence of a cycle. So I treat you good, make you feel like you're a queen. Then, you cross the line, I may beat you up. But then I'm sorry. And when I apologize, I'm good at it too, Apology is laden with gifts. Then there's a space to say, but really and truly, in all fairness, it's not really that bad because I love you. And look at how much I've done for you. Can't you forgive me this one little thing? And then there's peace and calm, and the cycle go on, eh? And every time you would like to believe it won't happen again. Because I really like you. I love you. You're my husband. You're my partner. You're my baby father. You're my father. And I really want to believe that you're not the monster that I'm experiencing. And those kind of thoughts that happen within human beings is what drives somebody not leaving. And I don't want us to feel like the woman who's found in this situation is any different from some of us. Some of us are in jobs, that we are abused.
Abused in the
And we go home every night and we cry. We really don't want to go back and get to the next month and you close and go. Until 30 years later, you ask yourself, how did I stay? There's a thing in human beings that work like this. And so unless you can break that cycle, then people will always stay. So the approach has to be, how do I help someone on that Ferris wheel to break the cycle? So there are many other things. So there's poverty issues. There's issue that housing, for example. Do women who are in abuse situation, can they go somewhere else? Sometimes the family never like the man in the first place.
Yes.
So the shame, me too shame for telling the body, so this is happening, eh? And this has nothing to do with age or class or education. It happens to all types of women. So your friend them said to you a long time, but Kim, I don't really like that brother there, I said, oh, no. But when you don't want to tell them that they were right.
Exactly.
So they shame you stay. So there's shame, there is fear for life. You're beaten and you thought, oh, I'm going to die. But you lived. But you don't want to die.
Yeah.
So there can be fear of your physical life. There's fear of what may happen to children because children get involved, eh? Let him beat me and not the children. Or if I leave, what am I going to do with the children? So there are a number of things that why will have a woman stay. And it's when those things are broken that she actually gets a chance to leave.
What are some of the resources that these women or persons who suffer domestic violence would have?
Not enough. We don't have enough agencies who respond to this. I mean, people can go to their church for counseling. There is the Women Inc. who has a temporary emergency shelter. And even though this, let's say small, there are family relatives, who sometimes get involved. But I think one of the biggest challenges is the physical safety. Because after you go to the counselor and, get some talk and you feel away, if you don't have anywhere to live, if you don't have no shelter for going on, you end up back in a situation. If you have no relatives to go to. So the whole issue of moving away is a big thing where a lot of people stay. And we don't really have any shelters in Jamaica. I know that the Bureau has announced that we have some shelters coming, but it's not here yet. So we're waiting patiently.
And the moving away issue is a lot because I've seen persons who, these persons are violent. So they do move, they do find a church home, they find somewhere physical, and that person comes to the place and says, "You're not leaving me.
That's right.
So you need to come home now." What do they do?
And that is where the law has to kick in. So the state has to protect them. And again, when it comes to state protection, you have a bigger problem. When the police comes to do their work, how much of that can be done? So sometimes the police will say, "We want to help, but the woman has changed her mind."
Oh, jeez.
And that's a reality. Because she's thinking about all these other back-end stories. Where does my real safety and protection come from? Where does my value come from? Will he still find me? Are these protection orders that I get from the state, are they really working? And then how do we, for example, enforce the law? That when there's a protection order and you're not to be seen in X amount of feet from this woman, and she made a report, do we go and lock him up again? So we really have to look at these things because we have to break the cycle. We can't continue like this. There are too many women that are losing their lives because their partner have taken their life.
So your organization, E for Life, has helped, I assume, a lot of persons in this situation.
Well, for us, again, we work primarily with girls, young women. We have helped mainly in terms of empowerment. In that we have, because of the kind of work that we do, and we believe that if you can change thought, you can change behavior. We teach skills, so we're very much into how do we help the young woman to move from victimhood to, as they say, to become a survivor. And we now hear some of them saying that, and we're no longer survivors, we're now overcomers. Because that elevation of that woman's spirit, even sometimes if she remains in the physical space, makes a difference. It's the girl who will now say to the partner, "You will have to help me with the baby."
Yes.
Because I am washing, cooking, and cleaning. Before she wouldn't say that. It is the woman who will now get up and go look work, even though she was told that you don't have to work because you're a baby mother and you're a housewife. And she only saw that. She didn't see herself anywhere else. It is the girl who goes back to school and get her education. So in some distant time, she can move out. It's how they learn the tricks and trade, how to survive, how to, we teach our girls martial arts, how to recognize when you need to diffuse a situation. How do you now stand up rather than saying. So we do a lot of empowerment. We definitely would love to be able to do physical shelters,
Yes.
But we don't have that right now.
And why do you believe is the common trait or the commonalities between victims of domestic abuse? What is that?
They're vulnerable. It's the woman who finds herself in need of something, that was told that she needs something else to make her complete. So it may be that she needs love to make her complete. It could be that she can't do any better. In her mind, the common trend is that you're stuck and you can't break free. Most times when we teach our girls from early that they are winners and that they are champions and that they are valued and that their body is theirs and they can speak up, It's a different girl you're looking at. It's a girl who, there was an incident I heard, I think it was in the media, there was a girl who was being trailed by a man, a young girl. She was going to Portmore, and he started talking to her in half a tree. And she said no, and then she took her bus, and him driving car.
Yes.
Trail the bus, go half a tree, go to Portmore. But by the time he reached Portmore, the police was there, because she had the presence of mind to videotape him. Send the message. This was like about 12, 13-year-old,
Yeah, nice.
That's the kind of girl you want.
Yes.
But she obviously have information. She obviously have some skills. She know how to say, listen, man, what do I do?
Yes.
So the culprit was caught. How many girls in Jamaica have that presence of mind? How many women have that presence of mind? One quick thing. I mean, we just did some work with our girls around child protection. And at the end of the session, one of the girls said, she had a wow moment. She says, before now, she used to pick her partner just for herself. So she do the checklist. Him cute. Him have some money.
Yeah.
Him have a house. And she said, now she adds one other thing. Will he hurt my children? That's the level of empowerment. I was like, wow, she got it. So she now says, I have added something to my checklist.
And it's not only the children, it's the entire family and herself as well.
So before that, so before that, we're not thinking,
Yes.
We're not thinking that this man could be an abuser. But because of her own experience and because of what she now learned, she's now thinking, no man, we have to look beyond the cuteness.
And persons usually say there are signs.
Yes.
There are signs, and persons keep avoiding the signs. So there are signs that he could become abusive, be more abusive.
So we have to look for it.
But it's right there, and you just can't see it because you're blinded by love.
But I want to say to though is I don't think that's just it, because a lot of people have never thought about it. So for example, you have communities where you have a man sit down at the shop, and he's there every day. And it's the man who, when you're running down a market, you say, Mr. So-and-so, give an iPad so-and-so for me. They're up at the yard. Right? You're not thinking twice.
Sure.
You're not thinking twice, but he's a total stranger. I never thought you said, but why would he be sitting down here every day and not go to work? Is this what a man really should be doing? So it's how we have those conversations and send off the light bulb in people's mind.
To say, this is happening, be vigilant.
There you
go. Be careful, think about it, think it through.
Think it through.
So, I'm really on the Stockholm Syndrome. That's a reality I've seen in documentaries, in personal stories. That's how the abuser now in their mindset believes, I'm not abused. I was not raped. I was not kidnapped. And then they fall in love with what they perceive is reality, but that's actually not reality.
Right.
That happens a lot in Jamaica?
Every day. We have a culture. So here, for example, if him not beat me, him not love me. What is that? Where does pain and beaten equal love? But we say it every day, and the people believe it. I remember when there was a documentary once in Jamaica about the bleaching. I don't know if you follow that.
Yes.
I remember a girl said, the reason why she bleach is that when her man lick her, it mark.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, I remember.
Almost died in my living room. And she felt like, this is a good thing because it shows something of a man.
And she was very serious.
So these are some of the things that continue. It happens every day. So even though we don't call it that, but it's what it is. It is how we as women accept that we are supposed to be abused. And it's very subtle, Here's another thing that we do. The cooking and cleaning.
Yes.
We teach our girls to wash, cook, and clean. Why?
Apparently it's our job.
To get a man.
Oh, yes.
It's not to fake look after yourself. It's not say, you can't make yourself a good man,
No.
The mother say, if you don't do so, you won't get a good man. Or your man go and beat you. I hear it every day.
Wow.
So to learn a skill that should make you a better person
for yourself
is linked to
getting a man.
And if you don't do it, then you're supposed to get a lick.
Wow.
So these are some things that we have in our minds. Like you said that, it's like we train. We said that we train our males to become abusers.
Yes.
And we train our women to become abused. If you look at the narrative how we set up in the society, that's why Stockholm Syndrome continues.
And since we're on the topic of parenting, let's get to child abuse. How can a parent or guardian or family member identify that, hey, my child is being abused? Well, sometimes it's the parents, but...
Yeah. Any change in normal behavior. A child that used to play a lot, that don't play anymore. A child that used to speak up, that doesn't speak anymore. Very, very quick signs of something is not all right. A child who resists a particular routine. So the child usually get up in the morning, have a bath a particular way, go off to school, get picked up by so-and-so, come home, and all of a sudden they don't want that routine anymore, or they stop coming home early because Uncle so-and-so is at the house, and you know, all of these things. Once the child demonstrates a discomfort, we need to look. And then when they vocalize it, we need to listen. I don't want to go down to that house anymore. Well, go on. But mommy, I don't want to go.
Why?
Ask why. So anything at all. Because listen to me, children are wired for pleasure, you know, and happiness and play. And when a child don't want to play and say, I am not happy, hello, something is awry. Along with the other ones, of course, if there's a physical sign, for example, for girls, whenever they're having their bath or they're, you know, passing their urine and they start complaining of pain and, you know, and this, check it out. They may have been molested, eh? Any kind of bruising that you see, check it out. They may be molested. So there are physical stuff, but most of it starts happening if you keep a keen eye. Part of the thing too is that a lot of us are not close to our children. There was also another documentary I saw with a man that was a pedophile.
Yes.
He was into trafficking. And he says that his job is to study your children. So when you're busy going about your work, there's somebody knowing what them like, see where they go, know what they want to talk about, because that is his job. In other words, he makes it his job to learn the intricacies of your child.
So if your child like ice cream, that's what I'm going to come and use.
But we can't tell you the flavor too.
Oh, Jesus.
So we have to understand that there are people out there who get up every day with an intention to hurt.
Wow.
So we're too laid back in this society. Until something bad happens, we all carry on. We're just too laid back.
Wow. We're up to another break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the issue of child abuse. Stay tuned. The Interface will be right back. Welcome back to Interface. I'm Kimberly Broderick. Our guest, Joy Crawford, Executive Director at E4Life, is here, and we're discussing right now the issue of child abuse. Regarding sexual abuse among children, who are the most common perpetrators?
Family members. A couple of years ago, we saw it another way. We thought it was the stranger danger, but as we have worked with our girls, and especially those who have gotten pregnant, the stories are horrific. And we're seeing now that the majority of the persons who have access to these girls are relatives. It's the cousin, it is the uncle, it is the biological brother, and the biological father. And it's just really something that we should be ashamed of as a society, as a country, and we need to break the cycle and discuss it. There are entire communities, for example, that people say, oh, that's an incestuous community. And it's nothing, you know. One of the thing with it is it happens most times before the girl is 16.
And this is in Jamaica? In
Jamaica. It happens when they are young, 7, 8, 9-year-old girls. And what we see is by the time they get to high school, which is when it becomes obvious that something is wrong, because they're acting up and they're getting into fights, and people say that they're promiscuous and are hunting down boys to have sex with, all that kind of drama. And I'm thinking, why is it that we don't realize that there's no way a teenage girl can show up displaying these behaviors if she had a safe childhood?
So for these children who don't know they're being abused, after the parents identified, what's the next move for the child?
You mean that the child herself don't know that she's been abused?
Yes.
Well, I mean, first of all, counseling has got to be a major part of this. Because when an abuse takes place, when physical or sexual abuse takes place in a child's life, it scars them internally. And it just never goes away. We're seeing women, adult women, 50, 60-year-old, who never spoke about their abuse. And, so as a society, we like to say, why did she take so long? Because some kids, when it happens very early, the scar and the masking is so strong that they just mask to survive and never speaks about the abuse. So it's something that we must recognize, that counseling, long-term counseling, is a big part of it. Protection. Once we find out that the abuse is taking place, that child must be protected by any means. Call the Child Protection Agency. Either the child may be removed for her own protection, or the perpetrator will be locked up. But it's really unacceptable to have the information that a child is being hurt within their home and within their community, and we don't report it.
And a common question again, why children?
Easy target.
They're vulnerable as well.
Yeah. Them say, don't be no frightened. And so, it's a weak man. I always say, it's a weak and sick man who will go and have sex with a child. It doesn't take anything out of you apart from being evil. You don't have to negotiate anything. You don't have to get on lyrics. You don't have to show up with your roses, and have some money in your pocket. Not true. So so you step into the lane of a girl and a child who have no power. It's just evil.
And what more can we do as the society, as the government, to protect our children?
What we have to do is to do it as individual people. And I say that as someone who works in an NGO, and actually the founder of an NGO in Jamaica, I've had so many women and men who tell me how much they admire what I do, but they can't do it. I've had so many people who stay from afar and say, yes, man, you're doing a good job.
Wow.
You're doing a good job, eh? So for me, it has got to be an individual. It has to be each individual, when they get up out of their bed every morning, says, I as a Jamaican citizen, I as a human being, will make a decision to look out and protect our children. We will look out for the girls. We have too many excuses. I hear it's not my business. I hear me don't really want to get involved because nobody hurt me. I hear, well, they deserve it. I hear that it's a family thing and it's their family and it's not my family. I hear all of these things. It's somebody else's business. No, it can no longer be. And it's not a government business because we're the government. What is the government to do? No, we as individuals need to do. And so like one of the campaigns we have is called No Go There, which we talk about each one, tell one. If you know that there's a man who is hurting a child, make it your business. If not, there's nothing that the government can do if the individual Jamaican citizens don't do it.
That's true. Tell us about E for Life. We want to know more about the E for Life entity. How did this come about? What was your vision behind it? How did you get here?
All right, so E for Life, was about 11 years old. Myself and Patricia Watson are the co-founders. And many years ago, we were both in the HIV response, doing different things, program development, consultancy, training, community involvement with other entities, other NGOs, international partners, but we saw that there was a big gap, and that is how the response was treating women and children. And we had developed a lot of relationship with women and children as we had done our work. So we decided that we wanted to do something for this population of women and children who were never named, and still today in 2019 not named in what we call the key populations. So when we make a plan for HIV, we have what we call key pops, and the key populations are the ones that have direct funding to address it. So women and girls have never been called key pops. So we decided to do something about that. About 2 years into our work, we recognized that the girl was the most vulnerable of the bigger picture. So we started focusing on girls who were living with HIV, or girls who were teenage mothers, or girls at risk for getting these situations. So we're in the schools, we are, pretty much carrying the voice to say our girl child in Jamaica is a vulnerable species, and we must do something to protect her. If not, pregnancy is going to occur, HIV is going to occur, and violence will continue.
And the name, how did the name come about?
It's interesting. Somebody asked that question yesterday of us, and it was one of those bathroom moments. Literally, we knew what we wanted. We wanted an organization that was nurturing. It was going to be women-centered. It has children in it as well. And we were contemplating, what embodies that? What's the essence of that? And so one night one early morning in my regular meditation, the whole concept of Eve, the mother of the universe, that nurturing, that womanhood came to me. And so I shared it with the people who were, brainstorming the organization with. I said, yeah, man, that sounds good. So we originally said we're going to be Eve. And then within the first year, I was doing a presentation at a school, a parenting session. And when I was speaking, I said Eve for life, unaware of it. So when I sat down, Pat said to me, do you realize you just said Eve for life? I said, no, but it sounds good. And it depicts what we want.
Yes.
We believe that we want to create a life energy into the girls who are hurt, because that's why we say about empowerment. We're not into dependence, and we want to be around for a long time. So even when we have moved on from this earth plane, we would want to know that Eve for life lives in the hearts of the girls that we have served and the families that we have served. So it was one of those cosmic moments.
Bathroom cosmic moment that turns lives around.
Yes.
And who is Joy Crawford?
Wow, oh man, I don't get asked that one very often,
Well, the viewers need to know.
All right, so Joy Crawford, I like to describe myself first to say I am life. I was born in December, and my birthday is actually next Sunday.
Oh, happy birthday when it comes.
I started to, I think from when I was born, I always knew I had influence, but I was very unsure of what it would look like. But I was very deliberate that I did not want my influence to be negative. And so, I'm from Montego Bay. I went to the Mount Alverna High School.
Oh, wow. So close to Immaculate. So close to Immaculate.
So close. The sister girls.
Yes.
And so, I have two girls, Janelle and Jade. Awesome girls. I'm very deliberate about parenting, but I'm very passionate about infusing life. I always say to people, I believe that when I step into a room, even if I'm quiet, I should leave an impact. So you're either going to like me or hate me. But you should not remain the same. If not, what's the purpose of the breath that I breathe? I am not very outspoken when I'm not on air. I could leave here and go back to my room and do nothing. But again, I believe that I have a job. I have been called to do something. And even though sometimes I resist the call, I do it. I like red stripe beer. And
Sorry?
No, that's not real beer.
Oh,
that's not real beer. And you should never have a beer in a glass. It has to be the real beer frosted over. I like a cold red stripe. It centers me. My staff know that. And now I will actually be 56
56.
on Sunday.
That
I have more years behind me than I have in front of me. And so right now I'm fierce. I'm fierce and fearless about the cause that I serve. But I just love life, and I love people, and I love to believe that our life breath should mean something. I believe that if we get up every morning and we do our routine without leaving an impact. One of the things that I've come to believe is that when I make my transition from this earth plane, you'll remember that I was here.
Well, continue to do the amazing work you're doing at E for Life.
Thank you.
And we expect to see great things in coming years.
Thank you.
Well, we've come to the end of today's episode of Interface. Join us again next time for another episode. Until then, I'm Kimberly Broderick. Thanks for watching.